Living with pain, see how Relief Factor can help.
My back got injured very bad. I was off work for about a year. I heard about Relief Factor from my wife. I took it every day, 3 times a day for 3 weeks. Look at her and I said, the pain is gone. And she said, I'm glad it helped. I said, no, you don't understand. It's gone.
Fight pain naturally with Relief Factor. Go to ReliefFactor.com and get your 3-week quick start today. Only $19.95.
Are you over the age of 55 and want to secure your wealth with physical gold and silver? We are Advantage Gold, the #1 customer-rated gold company in America. We have been helping investors take their 401ks and retirement accounts and diversify them into physical precious metals like gold, silver, platinum, and palladium. Call us right now, 800-900-8000. Just call 800-900-8000 and claim your free gold investing starter kit. Also learn how you might qualify for up to $10,000 in free gold and silver. Past performance is not indicative of future results. Please consult your tax or financial advisor. Call us at 800-900-8000.
Here's the Wall Street Business Report.
AI chip maker NVIDIA has done something no other company has ever done before.
Seemingly endless demand for the AI chips that NVIDIA designs has sent the company's market value up to $4 trillion. That makes NVIDIA more valuable than any of its big tech rivals. Microsoft and Apple are worth more than $3 trillion each. Much of the growth for NVIDIA has come over the past 2.5 years. More companies are investing heavily in building out their AI capabilities, and they're buying more and more of NVIDIA's chips to run them. The latest milestone in NVIDIA's growth came just 2 years after it surpassed the $1 trillion valuation mark. Seth Sutel, New York.
Stocks closed higher on Wall Street as the Trump administration sought to win more deals with global trading partners. The Dow Jones Industrial Average was up by 217 points, the Nasdaq up 192, and the S&P 500 up by 38. For the Wall Street Business Report, I'm Bob Agnew.
News and analysis at townhall.com.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. Mostly cloudy with a low dipping down to 74. Tomorrow it's more clouds than sunshine. A 60% chance we get some thunderstorms in the afternoon and early evening, and some could be severe. The high reaches 91. For Friday, the pattern continues. More clouds than sunshine and a chance for storms later in the day. Our high is 92. I'm Cal Moss with your On Point local weather.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, fireplaces. Summer sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The Point. This is The Point. Make The Point.
This is Sports Talk with Phil Kornblut and Chris Bergen. Sports Talk is heard across the state on radio affiliates of the Sports Talk Media Network and is streaming live on SportsTalkSC.com, as well as Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. The South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number to call in is 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now, here are Phil and Chris with tonight's edition of Sports Talk.
And good evening, everybody, and welcome into Sports Talk Media Network on a fabulous Wednesday edition of the program. Chris Bergen here in the Sardis PD area. Josh Cohen back at our Columbia area studios. Matt Smith with us again tonight from Georgetown as we continue covering for the Corn, who allegedly is on vacation, but is doing about as much work behind the scenes as he normally does in a normal week. So I don't know how much of a vacation he's actually enjoying, but nonetheless, he's out of state. But we'll see what happens the next couple of days. He may show back up on Friday. Who knows? 888-898-2525. If you'd like to be on the program tonight, we'll hit the text line as well at 803-900-4847. We hope you had a fantastic Wednesday, settling in for what should be a fun show tonight. Coming up just after 6:30, as we mentioned last evening, you folks in the upstate will recognize this name and certainly recognize the voice, as Chris Blair is set to join us. Formerly the voice of the Greenwood Eagles, also did some work with the Clemson Football Radio Network, then matriculated to Georgia Southern University, and now is the radio play-by-play voice of the LSU Tigers. He's going to stop by and visit with us just after 6:30 to recap the College World Series and their national championship win over Coastal Carolina, and we will also talk with him and preview the upcoming season opener between LSU and Clemson, one of the highlighted games of Labor Day weekend, so we get Chris's take on that. Just after 7 o'clock, good friend of the program, good friend of this state, legendary head coach Fisher DeBerry, set to be on the program as well. As a matter of fact, he's going to be chatting about the Coaches for Charity event that will take place up in Greenville next week. And Smitty, you're going to be there, and you're going to be rubbing elbows with some of the high-level folks here in our state, guys like Maurice Drayton. Of course, Dabo Sweeney will be there. It's interesting. It's all football coaches except for one. Shane Beamer evidently can't make it. He's got a previous conflict. So Paul Maneri, the head baseball coach at South Carolina, will be there in his stead.
Yeah, will Coach Beamer, he might still be in Atlanta, right, for SEC Media Days? I don't know if that's his day or not.
No, they actually go up first. They're on Monday.
Monday.
Gamecocks are.
Well, I'm looking forward to it, as you mentioned, Chennis Berry and Maurice Drayton and obviously Coach Sweeney, and just being there in the presence of Fisher DeBerry, who is a fountain of football knowledge. I know that this event is really focused on charity, and it's actually a really cool thing that they do. I often take pictures, and we can post those on our Twitter feed at SC Sports Now, because there's just, it's always there's signed paraphernalia from Dan Marino and Kobe Bryant or Woody Dantzler, and it's just everybody, anybody famous that you can think of, Joe Namath. I'm telling you, I'm not exaggerating when I say this. Sometimes they've got Goodfellas signed posters from Martin Scorsese on occasion, so I'll take some pictures of that. Yeah, it's great. They get such a great response for this because, think about it, all walks of life, they're all football fans. So if somebody reaches out and said, I've got some charity events coming up from Fisher DeBerry, longtime Air Force head coach, who says no? How do you say no? So almost everyone puts something in, and it is a tremendous event. I can always hear them having a good time while we're doing the show. I always ask Phil, hey, maybe I can go in and get a Heineken. No, we got to do the show. We got to keep doing the show. Keep doing the show. So I always miss the fun inside the doors. But, yes, and everyone is so gracious there because of the tenor of the event and because of Fisher DeBerry is so well respected. So I'm really looking forward to it. You've been, and I've gone. I've gone several times, and I'm looking forward to doing that again.
It's funny you mentioned the movie Goodfellas. I always am fascinated by these movies that were made in, the 80s and 90s, and what in terms of the cast, I think of A Few Good Men and the cast they have, and then of course the Goodfellas had about as good a cast as you could possibly have in Robert De Niro and Joe Pesci and Ray Liotta. I've always been fascinated if they tried to redo that movie now, how expensive not just the production costs but just the salaries to get these high-level actors to come and get together and do a movie like that.
Chris, actors are not the same now. I told you I hurt my back last week, 4th of July weekend, and I'm creeping into this old man territory a little bit. But come on, Timothy Chalamet is not Clint Eastwood. I mean, these guys are not.
Fair enough.
Who's playing? Who's in there? What actor are you going to take off of Love Island USA and say, look, we're going to get you into Hollywood now, and you're going to take the lead. We want you to play a role that Ray Liotta made famous. It can't be done. There is no John Wayne walking through that door. It's a different.
No.
It's a different world.
I think you misunderstood. No, I'm talking about taking those same actors in their prime.
Well, some of them are dead.
And plopping them into the movie now.
Oh, yeah, you can't. No, you can't. You're right. You can't afford it. It would be the same as saying, well, try to squeeze, what if you tried to get Mickey Mantle to sign a free agent contract now? It's the same. It's the same thing. You couldn't do it. That had to be done, as you say, in the 90s because there was this undercurrent. There were all of the, like Quentin Tarantino and others that had come from that independent scene, and a lot of them. I think Martin Scorsese among them had learned under Roger Corman, who was on time under budget guy, on time under budget B movies, and a lot of them. I know Jack Nicholson acted in some of those movies for Corman, and a lot of those directors came from that world, so they were much. Those movies were much tighter and slicker than they are now because now it's all green screen. So now, and then you had the James Cameron group. Come on, I know you didn't want me to get on this tangent, but it's something that really bothers me because it used to be so important in Hollywood? Writing. Writing was important. the script, that's out the window. That's out the window now. It's all green
I'm
screen.
impressed with your movie knowledge.
Well,
it's no idea.
Oh, it's one of the things that I concern myself with because I'm one of those guys that thinks it's all downhill. I mean, when's the last time you saw a great movie that came out and it was great? It knocked you dead. Like I remember there were movies, Josh, before your time. American Beauty, and you see it, and you say, "Wow, that was strong. That was good." Goodfellas is a great example. Tombstone, when it came out, and you catch it for the first time. I haven't been floored by any movies in the last 5-6 years. It's not the same.
888-898-2525 if you'd like to chime in with the movie critic Roger Ebert with us tonight here on Sports Talk. Who was Ebert's sidekick?
Well, Gene Siskel for a while. Yeah, Siskel for a while. And Roper. Roper was Roper and Ebert for a while after Siskel passed away.
I'm impressed with Smitty's Hollywood knowledge. Blown away. Your definition and your description of movies has blown me away, not necessarily the movies that have come out.
Yeah, but blown away, starring Jeff Bridges. Now, that was a pretty good movie.
All right, 888-898-2525 if you'd like to join us here on the program tonight. We'll hit a couple of news notes, get things rolling here this evening. First off, recruiting. Smitty will have a full recruiting report coming up in a bit, but right off the bat, South Carolina's target, Joel Combe of Marietta, Georgia, the safety, actually committed to Tennessee just about an hour ago. So, Smitty, it has been a rough day for the Gamecocks. Not only do they lose one of their prime targets in terms of recruiting, also we anticipated at some point in time today there would be a decision one way or the other on Rashul Faison, but it does not appear that's going to be the case because evidently it is not coming down today. The Big Spur reporting this afternoon that reports, and we had Scott Hamilton of the Post and Courier. He wrote a story over the weekend that at least his sources believed we were going to find something out at the latest today. Now, of course, we've still got 6 hours left to go in Wednesday. Something may come out at 11 o'clock tonight, knowing the NCAA, I wouldn't put anything past them. But it does not appear that a judgment is going to come down one way or the other for Faison, which just continues to boggle the mind.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what is happening with, well, we always say this, we don't know what's happening with the NCAA, and we would like to say that this is unsurprising, but it's certainly not. And as you alluded to, Joel Combe commits to Tennessee, and South Carolina misses on another target, and Phil has a very good, as you said, he should be on vacation, but he's not, and so somewhere he's huddled under a tree in the great Northwest, typing up a recruiting notebook, which we'll share with you later. But Phil had a pretty interesting story pop up in the notebook today, which is how many, I believe it's 20 of the 25 top commits so far have left the state. Clemson only has one of the top 25 players in high school in South Carolina, and South Carolina has 4. And, of course, they're missing on many of these out-of-state targets, and they have an in-state target, Tamarion Watkins, which Steve Wiltfong from Rivals thinks is going to end up choosing Texas A&M and not South Carolina. So the Gamecocks are not only missing on some of their top targets, they're also not really having a big year in-state either. So you couple those two things together. Now, I don't know what all of this means. Right now, things aren't working well, but there's a couple things we know. It ain't over till it's over. Signing day has not happened. These are commitments. So we'll see if Coach Beamer and staff can finish strong. And also, now you have, and you keep bringing this up, Chris, don't burn any bridges, Clemson fans and Gamecock fans, because some of these same players that we talk about in the recruiting report nightly here on Sports Talk may end up playing 2 years somewhere 1,000 miles away and then think twice about it and transfer out. Coaches get fired. Coaches leave. NIL money dries up. Injuries happen. Depth chart changes happen. So some of these players could end up, and in other words, Shane Beamer and Dabo Swinney both have, Dabo Swinney less so, but Shane Beamer still has access to the transfer portal before the end of next year. So, and South Carolina figures to be okay this year. So we will see where it goes. But right now, if you look at the 24/7 recruiting rankings, which I know Phil doesn't, and we don't like to refer to them here, but if you glance at those for 2026, South Carolina is scuffling, Chris.
They are, and the situation, back to the Faison situation for a second, they put so much into him. That was going to be their guy. And I start to wonder now if he does not get cleared, which the further along this goes, they may be in a heap of trouble in the backfield. And as we mentioned, we had Scott Hamilton on with us from the Post and Courier on Monday, and here was his explanation on Monday to us about what he believes was going to happen today. Don't know what's changed, but here were his thoughts about the Faison situation.
Well, that's what they're hoping. They said, here's the thing, they said around Wednesday, maybe by Wednesday. So we're gonna target Wednesday. But to your point, this thing is drug out for months, man. I mean, months. And it seems pretty cut and dry to me. I mean, you look at his background, you look at other cases. I don't know what the holdup is, and that's what's really fueling all the frustration from the people in South Carolina, the people in Faison's camp. I mean, it's driving them nuts. It's driving them nuts. I mean, they keep coming back wanting more information. They have his resume. They know where he's been. They know what he's done. I don't understand what's taking so long, and I honestly think it's the NCAA just pushing back for the sake of pushing back. I truly think that's what it is, because the NCAA is a pincushion right now, generally, but it's a punching bag when it comes to court. And they take another loss with the whole Diego Pavia thing. I think they're just pushing back, trying to flex while they can flex.
And Smitty, he may be 100% correct, but I went back through this because it's kind of bothered me with this situation because it's put the Gamecocks in a bad spot. But I'm starting to wonder if Shane Beamer and his staff should have seen this coming. Because if you go back and peel the onion back a touch on Faison's career, this is a guy who actually enrolled at Marshall in 2019. He's one of the few players in college athletics that was actually enrolled in a school prior to the pandemic. And then he spent a couple of years working through different junior college programs. He was gray-shirted at Marshall. Did not play football in 2020. Obviously, very few people had that opportunity. Then he enrolled at Snow College in Utah. Didn't appear in any games there. Then got to play at Snow College before he transferred to Utah State, where he played a couple of seasons. And last year was his 6th year in college. Smitty, I know the old 5 years to play 4 is sort of gone out the window thanks to Diego Pavia, but I'm not so sure these situations, Pavia and Faison, are identical, certainly because of the length of time. And, you know, I'm starting, and I mentioned this at the beginning when we started following this, and it went through spring practice, and he was participating in spring, but he wasn't cleared by the NCAA, and I felt at that time, I think South Carolina may have made a mistake, not on recruiting him, because he appears to be a really, really good player, and certainly was for Utah State last year, rushed for 1,100 yards and 8 touchdowns. But, Smitty, the longer this goes, I think the Gamecocks have put themselves in a bad situation. I don't know that he's going to get cleared. I really don't. And if I'm looking at it from an NCAA perspective solely, and I'm trying to compare it to some of the other situations, I could see why they would deny his request for an additional year of eligibility.
I can too. But here's my question. Then why wait?
That's a good point. That's a great point.
So, to me, I think, and this is what Scott Hamilton was saying, why the delay? If in other words, you have 5 criteria that you must meet and you just cut and dry do not meet one of those 5, well, I'm sorry. And I think everyone could live with that. I think Shane Beamer has said that. Look, we can live with it if it's a no. What we can't live with is maybe we'll get back to you. Leave another voicemail at the NCAA clearinghouse. That's what's concerning to everybody because South Carolina is going to start camp, and they're not going to know whether Rasul Faison is supposed to be working out with the first team or just hanging out with everybody else, that's in yellow jerseys.
Well, and this is where you also put in, if the NCAA truly cares about the athletes that play collegiately, this is where you put him in a bad situation. Is he preparing to face Virginia Tech Labor Day weekend, or should he start preparing to face the Philadelphia Eagles come next draft season?
This is a
because
great question.
He has no other option in college. I mean, the Gamecocks appear to be it for Rasul. If that doesn't work out for him, the NFL is all that he's got left, I think.
And you're right. And even with Rasul Faison, even if he's granted another year of eligibility and he ends up the starting running back for South Carolina, or one of, however they are going to shuffle this, we do have to say this about that Gamecock running game. Lenore Sellers is proven, and there are a lot of proven pieces on this offense. The running game is not one of them. And that's not just the running back position. Just can South Carolina line up, move the football with the running game with this group of players, this, offensive line, which some are veterans. They do have some veterans there along the front. But in terms of working together, how reliant is South Carolina going to be on Lenore Sellers to move the ball on third down? Are they going to be able to line up and pick up 3rd down and 2, 3rd down and 3, and pick those plays up in the running game with some of these unproven names? And again, that's not – these backgrounds are good. You mentioned Faison's numbers. The transfer that came in from Colorado has got some decent numbers. So Oscar Attaway, we've seen him in the past. We know about that. But can these guys do it against SEC competition? It's not just them. I'm talking about the running game in its entirety. That's play calling, that's execution, that's offensive line working together as a unit, and that's the running back position hitting the hole properly. Can all of those things come together? And right now they don't even know who their running back is, and that's not entirely their fault.
No, it's not, but I think it is their problem. And they probably should have prepared a little bit more. And maybe they got blindsided by the fact this has taken so long. But you would have hoped that when they brought him in, they had some quiet assurance. And maybe they did. And maybe this will play out and everything's going to be fine. But you just start wondering as we hit the middle of July and there's no resolution on this one way or the other. Tough deal here for the Gamecocks. All right, slide out for a timeout. Come back plenty more on a Wednesday.
I'm State Treasurer Curtis Loftus. Whether it's becoming a teacher, dentist, or engineer, every child deserves the chance to chase their dreams. Investing in a child's education with Future Scholar, South Carolina's 529 College Savings Plan, can help turn those big dreams into next steps. So don't wait. You can start with any amount. Contributions are tax deductible and earnings grow tax-free. Discover the smart, easy way to save for college at futurescholar.com.
Get ready for a summer of adventure with Founders Federal Credit Union. Now through July 31st, you can take advantage of a special 6.99% APR on select purchases made with your Founders credit card. Whether you're planning a road trip across the state, a relaxing beach getaway, or finally checking off that bucket list destination, we're here to help you make it happen. With this promotional APR, you can enjoy your summer without the stress of high interest rates. Pack your bags, gather your loved ones, and get moving to the vacation you've been dreaming of. Founders makes it easy to enjoy more. So go ahead, kick back, relax, and soak up every sun-soaked moment of your well-deserved summer break without breaking your budget. Learn more and see the list of qualifying purchases at foundersfcu.com/cc. Let Founders help you take the trip of a lifetime. Promotional rate ends February 1st, 2026. Effective APR of 13.25% to 17.90% will apply. Terms and conditions apply. Membership qualification required.
Party with us on a Wednesday night here on Sports Talk Media Network. Chris Mitty and Josh with you. Chris Blair, the voice of the LSU Tigers, coming up in about 10 minutes. Talk some college baseball and also college football with the former voice of the Greenwood Eagles a little bit later on. And also, of course, Fisher DeBerry on the way right after 7 o'clock. Another stopwatch has started, Smitty, and as we hit some of the other news notes of the day, Pat Forty wrote a column, said that probably within the next 48 hours, and again, we understand time frames are interesting beast to deal with, but he believes college leaders are going to decide whether or not to expand the NCAA men's basketball tournament. I can almost guarantee you they shall, and go from where it is now 68 to probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 74, 76. And I have never been an advocate of expanding any playoffs, especially the NCAA tournament. They had the perfect model at 64. Now, I realize you've got over 300 Division I teams that play men's college basketball, and the concern is, well, it's a much smaller percentage of the teams that play that get into the postseason versus, say, college football or college baseball. But that being said, I don't know that 76 is going to fix the problem because regardless of what Seth Davis told you earlier today on Twitter, where he said it's an unarguable fact that more mid-majors will get at-large bids if the field is expanded. It is an unarguable fact that Seth could not be more wrong. And he goes on to say you literally cannot argue otherwise. The only reason they are expanding is so the SEC, the Big Ten, the ACC, and the Big 12 can get more teams in. It is not so that Coastal Carolina and UNC Greensboro have a chance to get in.
No, I completely agree with you, Chris. This is not so the SoCon becomes a two-bid league. This is not so that we get an additional Atlantic Sun participant in the tournament. And they're not the power brokers anyway. They're not the one. They can say things, but those ADs and presidents are not the ones moving the needle with the NCAA anyway. And I hope they don't do this. And I find this so funny. Yes, there are more than 300 programs playing Division I basketball. Whose fault is that? You can't say that you can't expand into 300-plus teams, allow everybody to come up, pay their dues, pay the money on the way in to do all the things that they had to do, and be ineligible for a while and jump through all of the hoops that it takes to get to Division I, and then the same people say, well, now we need to expand the tournament because there's too many teams in Division I, frankly. You did that. I didn't do that. You didn't do that. The NCAA did that. They allowed this. They created a problem, and now they're going to solve it bluntly. And I'm beside myself. If it goes to 76, come on, man. Your bracket's going to be 2 pages. Can't have it. Doesn't make any sense.
I don't know of anybody outside of coaches and conference commissioners who want the expansion of the men's basketball tournament or the ladies. I don't think anybody sees necessary. And they're not going to expand the women's tournament, I don't think, because it's not really competitive top to bottom to begin with. No reason to add more teams to make it even less competitive. But on the men's side of the coin, I mean, there's no reason to go additional. So you could add, remember at this, at the tail end of the basketball season, we were debating whether or not South Carolina was going to get into the NIT because of some of the rules. You're going to have a team that was 5-13, 6-12. I think you actually did have a couple teams this year in the NCAA tournament in their conference. There were 5-6 games below 500 that got bids. Do we want more of that? No. Who's clamoring for that? I tell you, let's make sure that we throw Mississippi State in the college football playoff this year if they finish just above 500 in the SEC. No one wants to see that. But for some reason, we want to see it in college basketball. No, thank you. All right, slide out, quick timeout. Chris Blair talking LSU athletics up next.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. Mostly cloudy with a low dipping down to 74. Tomorrow it's more clouds than sunshine. A 60% chance we get some thunderstorms in the afternoon and early evening, and some could be severe. The high reaches 91. For Friday, the pattern continues. More clouds than sunshine and a chance for storms later in the day. Our high is 92. I'm Cal Moss with your On Point local weather.
Dave Ramsey here. Do you want your money to work for you rather than you working for your money? Go see my friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. They're not a mega bank and have been serving the Midlands since 1936, offering good old-fashioned customer service and free services. They'll look out for your financial well-being. With 14 locations, check them out today at palmettocitizens.org. Federally insured by the NCUA.
Congressman. With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters in Washington. Officials in Texas are facing mounting questions about whether they did enough to get people out of harm's way before a flash flood swept down the Guadalupe River and killed more than 100 people, including at least 27 children and counselors at an all-girls Christian camp. More than 160 people are still believed to be missing. President Biden's White House physician is refusing to answer questions as part of the House Republican investigation into Biden's health in office. Dr. Kevin O'Connor invoked his rights under the Fifth Amendment during a closed-door interview Wednesday before the House Oversight Committee. Oversight Chair Congressman James Comer of Kentucky says O'Connor's refusal to testify makes it clear there was a conspiracy. More details at srnnews.com.
Hey, this is Kev with my good friend Ken from over at Broker Solar, and he really is a good friend. I've known Ken's family for more than 20 years. All right, so how many people lost power for an extended time back when we had that hurricane come through here, right? You got the solution, though, Ken, the solar-powered batteries.
The battery with solar system is essential. Not only can you back up your loads in an emergency event like a power outage, but you can also control the peak times that you use power, and the batteries can kick in to supplement your power usage. With our solar batteries, you can back up the home just like a generator would, but run it off the clean energy from the sun, which we get every single day. So no need to refill the gas, propane tanks, all powered by the sun.
Remember, Broker Solar is local. You make the call, the investment is worth it. How do the Point listeners find you over at Broker Solar, Ken?
The best way is going to be through brokersolar.com. Plenty of contact us buttons, but the phone number to reach us at would be 803-807-7417.
Are you in the market for an auto loan? Move now. Get an auto loan from Founders Federal Credit Union now through October 31st, and you'll be entered to win up to $25,000 toward your qualifying auto loan and a $5,000 deposit into your Loyalty Select account. Loyalty Select is our highest yield savings account. Leave it there to grow or transfer it out to spend. And the best part? We'll be choosing monthly winners. So the earlier you get your auto loan, the more chances you have to win. So don't wait. Visit foundersfcu.com/auto to learn more or begin your auto loan application today. Not a Founders member yet? Visit us online or stop by an office to learn more about Founders and see if you qualify for membership. We have the financial tools you'll need and the personalized service you deserve. Relax, you're with Founders. Terms and conditions apply. Membership qualification required.
Escape the hustle and bustle of everyday life with Spa MD, your sanctuary of rejuvenation. Feel the tension melt away as our expert team guides you through your customized wellness journey. From soothing massages to revitalizing treatments, we promise a remarkable experience that leaves you feeling renewed and empowered. Discover the calm within every visit. Reach out at 251-9400 or online at visitspamd.com to explore your options. Your oasis of tranquility awaits.
Groucho's Deli is the Midland's most loved, historic, and awarded deli and has been for decades, serving trademark subs like the STP Dipper with melty Swiss over roast beef, turkey, and bacon bits on a soft sub roll and served with Groucho's famous 45 sauce. Come into any of our 8 Midlands locations and see for yourself or pick up with fast, convenient, and friendly service at Grouchos.com or on the Groucho's app and sign up for the Groucho's Rewards and Birthday Brownie Club.
Back on Sports Talk Wednesday night edition here with Chris Smitty and Josh Cohen. You can join us as well at 888-898-2525. Our poll question of the week has nothing to do with college football in general. I mean, I guess overall it does. But our poll question of the week presented by Larry Lucas Insurance. You can call Larry at 803-799-1998 for all of your insurance needs. The question is, does the public have the right to know details of revenue sharing and NIL deals between schools and athletes? So far, 73% of the respondees believe, yes, we do deserve the right to know this stuff. 27% say nope. Keep it private for the kids. And you can chime in on our Twitter page at SC Sports Now and also up on our website at SportsTalkSC.com. We'll catch up with the legendary Coach Fisher DeBerry just after 7 o'clock to talk about the South Carolina Coaches for Charity event coming up in Greenville next week. But kind enough to join us for a few moments, we welcome him back to his home. He ran away to Cajun country. We bring him back tonight. The voice of the LSU Tigers cut his teeth, though, as the voice of the Greenwood Eagles, as we say hello to Chris Blair on the phone lines tonight. Chris, welcome home. It is great to chat with you here this evening.
Hey, Chris. Hope you gentlemen are doing well back over there in the Palmetto State.
Well, how does it feel to be back on the air here in South Carolina?
Well, it's great. First of all, I mean, to be on Sports Talk kind of reminds me of, the old WFIS Fountain Inn, WPCC Clinton, WCRS Greenwood. I mean, I think I either listened to or produced thousands of hours of Sports Talk going back to my high school days. So it's great to be back on the show that I used to listen to all the time to get my Sports Talk information.
Well, it's our privilege to have you on the program, and we'll talk about your current job at LSU here in just a couple of seconds. But I wanted the fans to understand, you former Greenwood High School play-by-play guy, but you weren't a radio guy initially. That wasn't going to be your pathway. When you graduated from Lander, you actually had a political science degree, if I'm not mistaken. So how does a poli-sci major end up doing radio for LSU?
Well, I tell people all the time, I get typically asked, did I take telecommunications or multimedia? And I said, no, I got a degree in political science, which means, the only other thing I'm qualified for is to run the government. So I think I'll stick with radio. But I'll be honest with you, having spent 20 years in collegiate athletics, I think a political science degree may be the best degree to have.
I don't know that I can dispute that, especially now, knowing all the legislation that you've got to work your way through. Chris Blair, the voice of the LSU Tigers, with us here tonight on Sports Talk. All right, before we get into LSU and Clemson, obviously have to rewind back to the College World Series and another national championship for the Tigers, their 8th over Coastal Carolina. Now, Chris, if I'm not mistaken, your first year working after leaving Georgia Southern to go to LSU was the year that Coastal knocked LSU out of the NCAA tournament in the Supers. So if I'm correct on that, how did it feel to get a little revenge at the College World Series?
Yeah, well, you're exactly right. I got in Baton Rouge in December 7th, 2015, a day in our household that lives in infamy. And my first on air was with LSU baseball and South Carolina's current head coach, Paul Maneri, in February of 2016. And indeed, the Chanticleers arrived here at Alex Bach Stadium in a super regional, and that was one heck of a baseball team, and they went on and not only went on to Omaha, but won the national championship. So, it was interesting going back this year once we arrived at Omaha. LSU and Omaha, again, that was the 20th trip to the College World Series. So there's a long history. And now they've won it 8 times. So 40% of the time when they get to Omaha, they're bringing the trophy home. So, LSU fans have, first of all, they're very smart baseball fans. Very educated, understand the game, and they also really respect good teams, good coaches, and good programs. So we got to Omaha this year, and the funniest thing to me was everybody for Coastal was saying, don't call us a Cinderella. Well, everybody up there in purple and gold said, we're not. We're calling Murray State Cinderella. We know what Coastal Carolina can do. So it ended up being a great 2 weeks, basically, in Omaha. And this Tigers team, you really had a kind of an inkling early on in the year just based on the talent. And what I mean by that is they had, the hardest job Jay Johnson had, and I joked with him all the time, was coming up with a lineup every day. And he had the ability to have a great lineup in the starting role, but he also had the ability to, push levers and pull switches and make some adjustments in a game, much less overall in a series. Because he had so much talent. There were guys who probably would be starting on a lot of SEC teams that were platooning. Josh Pearson comes to mind. Jake Brown comes to mind. There were a number of guys that he could go to. So it was a very deep team beyond just 9 or 10 or 11 guys he could count on. But it was a great 2 weeks. I got to be honest with you. I thought Coastal Carolina on the other side of the bracket probably was the best team on that bracket. And I really felt like whoever won, Arkansas or LSU, was the better team on that side of the bracket. And basically, when you're able to beat Arkansas twice, which LSU was able to do this year 5 times, I felt like, LSU, they play great teams, and Coastal Carolina is a great team. But LSU plays great teams basically from early March until the season ends.
How impressed were you? You got to see him pitch throughout the season, but the job that Cade Anderson did in Game 1, I thought he was terrific, and I felt like if Coastal was going to have a chance to knock LSU off, they had to win Game 1 of the College World Series. How impressed having seen him all year? I mean, was that the best performance you had seen out of him?
Yeah, I think it was one of the best. I mean, he obviously, had a complete game victory over Oklahoma earlier in the season on the road. And I think it was at that moment, Chris, that it really kind of stood out to me that this guy is something special. I mean, Cade, we knew he had the stuff, but could he be consistent coming into this season? And basically, there wasn't anybody returning on this staff, not to mention some of the transfers that you don't really know about until they're thrown into the fire, if you can be consistent. But, obviously Cade and then backed up with Anthony Heinsohn proved to be two very consistent arms throughout the season. So I was thrilled for Cade, his family. I mean, he grew up wanting to be a Tiger. His family are big LSU fans and always have been. And for him to go in that situation, be the Friday night starter from start to finish in 2025 and be able to go and throw on those type of stages against those type of teams is why I think, you're seeing a lot of it now with the draft projection that he may be the first pitcher to go. I mean, obviously, if you lead the country in strikeouts and you lead your team to a national championship, and then you look at the actual numbers, strikeouts to walks, the effectiveness that offenses just did not have against him, he certainly deserves all the praise. And, much like another guy we saw in 2023, I expect to see Cade Anderson in a major league uniform sooner than later.
Yeah, Paul Skeens would be that guy. Chris Blair with us here tonight, the voice of the LSU Tigers. One more baseball question, and then we'll move on to football. Does Jay Johnson get any time to enjoy this? I mean, it's the 8th national championship at LSU, so obviously it's expected. So is he already back out on the recruiting trail and worried about next year? Did he actually get maybe a week or two to sit back and say, this was a fun year?
We joke with Coach Johnson all the time because, obviously Nick Saban, who Jay Johnson really looks to as kind of a guy that you want to set your foundation, regardless of sport. He's always talked about, the process, and he's first to admit that he gets that from Saban. His father was a football coach in Northern California, so he uses a lot of football analogies. And I joke with Jay all the time. I said, Jay, Nick Saban has more hobbies when he was coaching than you have. And Jay it's baseball 24/7, 365. He wakes up when his feet hit the ground out of the bed. He's trying to make LSU baseball better. In fact, there were transfer portal moves being made while he was playing for a national championship. So when he wasn't working with the team on preparing for Arkansas or UCLA or Coastal Carolina, he was working on making LSU better in 2026. When he travels this summer, he'll be going to North California to see some family. He'll be checking out he always schedules it based on seeing some prospective student athletes. He'll also travel up to the Northeast to watch some of the summer leagues. It's all baseball all the time. I ask him what he does on his birthday, and it typically, because it's in the spring, he typically spends the day at home, which is, pretty interesting. But he's watching game film on whoever he's playing the next couple of weeks. He literally does nothing but baseball every second of the day.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, his counterpart in the College World Series Championship Series, Kevin Snow, is doing the exact same thing. I happened to drop by his office today, and he was in there working, and he had a bunch of paper all over his desk. So I guess these guys just eat, sleep, and live baseball, and that's why they're as successful as they are, right?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. I mean, Jay knew so much about Skip Bertman, who built the LSU program, who won 5 national titles here, and really not only put LSU baseball on the map, but he put SEC baseball and, frankly, for that matter, college baseball on the map. Mm-hmm. And, Jay has such a high regard. And he mentioned when he was hired the day of the press conference that even as a young coach and a young player growing up on the West Coast, Skip Bertman was a big deal. And so now he's here in Baton Rouge. He's leading a program where the expectations are unrealistic every single year. I mean, let's just face it. And he's got Coach Bertman, that he talks to daily, several times a week, in season and out of season. So he's having the time of his life. But if you want to win championships in college baseball, and again, it's hard to win a national title in any sport, but to me, college baseball is probably the biggest gauntlet to do it. A lot of teams are happy to get to Omaha, and they should be. That's not easy to do. LSU doesn't expect to get to Omaha. They expect to win a title. So getting there isn't good enough, and Jay understands that better than anybody else.
The voice of the LSU Tigers, Chris Blair, with us here tonight on Sports Talk. The Tigers coming off a championship in college baseball. Now they'll begin what they hope is a quest for a college football championship, and they'll do so the final weekend of August against the Clemson Tigers. And, Chris, you know the Tigers pretty well, having worked on their radio broadcast team as well, so this ought to be a fun trip for you at the Labor Day weekend when the Tigers get together with the other Tigers.
Yeah, I spent 5 years working for the Clemson Sports Network, worked for Don Munson. He's the guy who hired me years ago when I got out of college. And so it's going to be great to see Don and their crew. And again, be back at I don't want to make anybody mad, but the smaller Death Valley, both have Death Valleys. There's 102,000 here in Baton Rouge, and there's 84, 88 there at Clemson. But it's a great place, great atmosphere, one of the best tailgating places to go. I'm looking forward to being back there. And frankly, when you've got two teams as highly touted coming into this year as Dabo's Clemson Tigers and Coach Kelly's LSU Tigers, to not waste any time and right out of the gate, you're talking about, depending on what poll you subscribe to preseason, which, I've said for years is as useless as a screen door on a submarine, but it gives us something to talk about. These are two teams that have their eyes on the 12-team playoff and possible national championship. And they got no margin for error right out of the gate. LSU's on the road, taking on Clemson, a hostile environment with a very good team. And I think LSU feels good about their team, probably more so this season, Chris, than the last couple of years. And this is a team that hasn't won an opener since 2019 against my former school, Georgia Southern, and that magical Joe Burrow season. So the pressure's kind of on. But I think there's a little bit of optimism from the fan base simply because there were obvious holes in the roster. There were obvious deficiencies on defense for the last couple of years. I mean, you got a guy like Jaden Daniels who's setting records left and right, who steps into the NFL and picks up where he left off in college, and yet you couldn't win, some games you should have won because you couldn't stop anybody. But in the offseason, especially in the transfer portal, Coach Kelly and his staff, you got to give them credit. They backed up the truck. They brought some people in. They've got some great transfers to kind of build around what they have coming back, which is a pretty good piece with Garrett Nussmeier, who may be at least the most veteran SEC quarterback going into this year, with over 4,500 yards thrown last year. You got a couple of running backs who are going to return, and Caleb Jackson and Caden Durham. And then I think the wide receiver room, I think that's probably where people get most excited because you got a couple of burners. And if there was something that was missing last year from LSU's offense, it was the vertical threat, the ability to really stretch the field. Chris Hilton's one of those guys, and he spent most of the year injured. He's back ready to go. They added a guy from Oklahoma that's what he does, Nick Anderson. And, I think with the pieces they have around Garrett Nussmeier, he's just got to deliver the football. And I think the biggest question mark was defensively, as I said earlier. And again, the transfer portal, we're going to see probably out of the 11 starting defenders, you're probably going to have 6 to 7 transfers that are expected to come in and make an impact immediately. Mm-hmm. So, I think there's a sense of urgency being around the building this summer, and it begins to ramp up as we head towards fall camp, that you got to go win this game at Clemson. And that's not going to be easy because I'm sure the people there in Clemson and all across South Carolina feel like this may be one of Dabo's better teams in a couple of years. So it should be an absolute marquee matchup when we kick it off on the 30th.
Well, I'm not sure you'll be able to find a better quarterback matchup with Nussmeier on your side and then Cade Klubnik on the other side. But going up against the Clemson defense for Garrett Nussmeier or the LSU defense trying to work against Cade Klubnik, which quarterback do you think might have it, for lack of a better term, a little bit easier than the other?
It's hard to say, Chris. I mean, both of those guys were recently, I think a week or so ago, were down at the Manning Passing Academy, which is about 50 miles from where I'm standing right now in Thibodaux, Louisiana. And Arch Manning obviously was there. It's his grandfather and uncle's camps, and it's dad's camp for that matter. And they all three, everybody was there to see him. Obviously the campers are there to get better as quarterbacks, but the media attention was all on Garrett Nussmeier and Klubnik as well as Arch Manning. So, it's hard to say. I think for LSU, I might give Clemson maybe the benefit just on paper because maybe they have more known commodities on defense. As I said earlier, LSU's got some guys who have done some things at other places like Virginia Tech and Oklahoma and Florida State. But again, when you build a team, and that's the way they build them these days, out of the transfer portal, how do they translate in the locker room? How do they translate on the field, shoulder to shoulder with their teammate? And as I said, that's kind of the difficult part of opening your season with this type of matchup is you're thrown right into the fire. There's no chance to kind of ease into it and get acclimated to what it's like outside of the practice fields when the lights are on, the crowd is in the seats, and you're on the road in a hostile environment. So I think that's the biggest question mark. I think if you talk to LSU fans right now, they will tell you their biggest concern is defense because of what's happened the last couple of years and the fact that we're relying on first-year guys, some freshmen and some transfer portal guys, that you just have to see. They got to get out there and get it done. But as I said, those question marks at least were addressed publicly by Coach Kelly, and they went out, and I think most fans are happy that they've done the things needed to do to get better. Now it's up to the players to go out and make plays.
Chris Blair joining us, the voice of the LSU Tigers, back with us here on Sports Talk. Chris, you were talking about how everybody fits in. I found one of the most fascinating stories in the last 3+ years in college football is Brian Kelly to LSU, because he's a coach with a tremendous track record. We know he's got a mind for the game, but an interesting culture fit because, as you know now from being in LSU for so long, it's unlike any other place in college football. And Brian Kelly, comes from the Midwest. How is that going? And how are the fans embracing Brian Kelly now after some success?
It's interesting. I had the privilege of introducing Coach Kelly to a large booster group the day he was hired after his formal press conference, gathered at Tiger Stadium. And I introduced him and said, hey, he's Grand Valley State and Cincinnati and Notre Dame, and he comes from the Northeast and Massachusetts, and he worked in politics in Boston, and now he's here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, coaching the Fighting Tigers of LSU. The one thing that'll make you fit in Baton Rouge and in this state is if you win. If you win, it doesn't matter where you come from, how you speak, what your accent is. And the perfect example of that is Nick Saban. Skip Bertman, who was involved in hiring Nick Saban to coach the football team here, there's a legendary story that he tells. He told everybody that he knew, you watch and see. This guy is going to be unlike anybody else you've seen coaching. Well, how do you know that, Skip? I just know. And, 20 plus years later, we all know that he is the absolute best to ever coach up to this point in this sport. And again, Nick Saban, once he retired from Alabama, they love him here. He just got put into the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame last weekend, and there was a tremendous crowd on hand. So if you win, that's what matters. Les Miles wasn't from Louisiana. He won a national title. It's different when you have Ed Ogeron because he grew up not far from the campus and he won a national title. But it all comes down to winning. And again, I have a great relationship with Coach Kelly. He's great. He's a really funny guy. He's got a sharp sense of humor, very sarcastic. But he cares about this program. He's happy here. He loves it here. And they just need to win. And, they need to get to the playoffs. He understands that. First 2 seasons here, he had 10-win seasons. There was a 14 playoff. The year they opened it up to 12, he doesn't get to 10 wins. He doesn't get into the playoffs. He understands that. But, again, I think when it's one thing to be a head coach and have a couple of years under your belt where it's pretty obvious to the sports writers and to the national media and to the fans that this is the glaring problem on your roster. And to go out and fix those problems like he's done, I think, again, is why there's some optimism. And if he can put it together, get into the playoffs and, see what happens, Brian Kelly will be beloved forever here in the great state of Louisiana.
Well, Chris, we were so glad that you've had such success after starting here in South Carolina, and, of course, by way of Georgia Southern. So that's my final question. Do you miss the nightlife in Statesboro? Do you miss everything closing 6:45?
You know what's great? And I tell people this all the time. I spent about 9 years doing Greenwood High football there in Greenwood, South Carolina, and learned to call the game of football right there at J.W. Babb Stadium, and then moved that to Paulson Stadium in Statesboro, Georgia, for one of the most successful football programs in college athletics. And the passion in Statesboro for their football team is no different than it is here at LSU. It's on a bigger scale, obviously. But I learned to do what I did at J.W. Babb and at Paulson Stadium. It's 100 yards. The yard markers are still the same. Interestingly enough, LSU and Tiger Stadium is one of the few college stadiums that actually have each yard marked and the 5 yards marked, as well as the 10s and 20s. That was the same way they had it at J.W. Babb Stadium when I was there. So I learned everything there. Only difference is they put 102,000 people around you. That's the only difference. And I had a great time in Greenwood, had a great time. I moved from Kentucky to South Carolina when I was in high school. I love South Carolina. My family still lives there. I don't get back as often as I was like because I do football, basketball, and baseball, so I'm pretty busy from basically August till the end of June when it turns into this kind of year. But I miss it. And, again, Statesboro is another place that is very close to my heart, and I keep my eyes on those Eagles as well. And I got a lot of good friends that are still there, that work there. And, it was tough in 2019 when they came here because I told them, I said, guys, get ready. This team, I went to fall camp for 4 weeks. I watched Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson and that whole team, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I said, get ready. You'll have fun up until we kick it off. And they did.
Well, I'm sure Danny Reed appreciated the hospitality, though.
Oh, I think he had a wonderful time. I took him to the hospitality tent. That's one thing I tell people. LSU gets a bad rap because they say it's a dangerous place to come and they're mean to fans. And, I know South Carolina's coming this year, and I invite all Gamecock fans, if you can come down here, come down here. There's great tailgating all over the country, but I will say there's no place like LSU game day. It's just different from everywhere else, and I think you'll never go hungry. You won't be thirsty, and you come, you tailgate for the whole day. You'll have a wonderful time. Once you get in Tiger Stadium and boot meets ball, well, then all bets are off. I can't vouch for anything after that. But the whole day leading up to it, you'll have a wonderful time.
Let you get out of here on this, Chris. More nervous for you getting ready to call a Greenwood State Championship game or calling the LSU National Championship game?
Gosh, I'll be honest with you, man. I was probably, I'm trying to think now. How old was I? I was probably late 20s, mid-20s. I was probably more nervous there at Williams-Brice calling that Greenwood High Championship for Coach Sheldula over Aiken all those years ago. By the time you get to, doing it 20 years, you just got to make sure all the hay's in the barn. You know that. I mean, as long as the hay's in the barn, everything should take care of itself. So I'd say I was probably more nervous sitting way up there at Williams-Brice Stadium, calling that high school championship game all those years ago, which I can't even remember what year that was. Shows you how old I am.
Great stuff with Chris Blair, the voice of the LSU Tigers, of course, LSU and Clemson to open up the upcoming college football season. Chris, great having you on the program. Welcome back to South Carolina, at least in this capacity. We wish you guys all the best as you head into the upcoming season, and hopefully we'll catch up with you again real soon.
Chris, Smitty, thanks for having me on. It's a real treat to be back on your show. And I want to give a shout-out to my fraternity brother, Tim Armstrong, longtime Sports Talk listener. Hello, Tim. I'll see you down here in Baton Rouge.
That is great. Chris, we appreciate it. We'll take a break, top of the hour here on Sports Talk.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, fireplaces. Summer sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The Point.
Breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters in Washington. Efforts continue to find at least 160 people still known to be missing from the Texas floods.
At a news conference Tuesday, Lieutenant Colonel Ben Baker says his team is making sure first responders and officers have the support they need as they continue their search.
We process it the best we can. We have professionals in place, our crisis intervention team.
Officials are also trying to address concerns raised about alert systems and why more preparations weren't made ahead of the flooding. Kerr County Sheriff Larry Letha on Wednesday.
I believe those questions need to be answered to the family of the missed loved ones, to the public, to the people that put me in this office.
I'm Haya Panjwani.
Across the state border in New Mexico, another flash flood has claimed lives. A man, a 4-year-old girl, and a 7-year-old boy were swept away from an RV park along the Rio Ruidoso as floodwaters raged through the area Tuesday. Ruidoso Mayor Lynn Crawford says the river crested at least 5 feet over last year's record.
This is historic water levels that we experienced. The USGS, the United States Geological Survey gauge at Hollywood in the Rio Ruidoso crested at a historical high of 20 feet. Last year during the historic flood, it was over 15 feet. So we're 5 feet over last year.
Dozens of homes were damaged. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he and U.S. President Donald Trump are in lockstep in efforts to secure a hostage deal.
President Trump wants a deal, but not at any price. I want a deal, but not at any price. Israel has security requirements and other requirements, and we're working together to try to achieve it.
Netanyahu spoke while on Capitol Hill today. On Wall Street, the Dow up by 217 points. More at townhall.com.
If you're living with pain, see how Relief Factor can help.
I'm an artist and I'm in my studio. I listen to the radio all day and I'm hearing the ads about Relief Factor. And I've got pain in my neck and it's getting worse. And I'm thinking, well, I'm going to go ahead and order this. 2 weeks later, I've got much better range of motion. If you're experiencing pain at a certain point in life, I would get Relief Factor.
Fight pain naturally with Relief Factor. Go to ReliefFactor.com and get your 3-week quick start today. Only $19.95.
Progressive's Teen Driver discount could lower the cost of insurance for your teenager and save you some money. And then you can still spend money on them. Because just when you think you have a grasp on spending, new sneakers. And then it's money for a school field trip. And of course, spending money. Oh yeah, and a new phone to replace the one they dropped in the toilet. Oh, don't remind me. So just get Progressive's Teen Driver discount. And then you can continue to spend money on them endlessly. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Discount not available in all states and subject to terms and conditions.
An appeals court throws out a rule that was supposed to make it easier to cancel things like streaming subscriptions.
The Federal Trade Commission's so-called click-to-cancel rule was announced in 2024 with the goal of making it just as easy to cancel something as it was to enroll. It was set to take effect in a few days, but the court Tuesday said the federal agency had not done a proper regulatory analysis of the rule. That's required when the impact on the economy is more than $100 million.
Correspondent Tasha Stevens. An Israeli man's memoir about being held captive by Hamas is set for U.S. release. Eli Sharabi's Hostage, originally written in Hebrew, has already become a bestseller in Israel. Harper Influence announced Tuesday that the English edition will be published on October 7th, marking the 2-year anniversary of the 2023 attack. News and analysis at townhall.com. From Washington, I'm Keith Peters. There have been more.
On-Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. Mostly cloudy with a low dipping down to 74. Tomorrow it's more clouds than sunshine. A 60% chance we get some thunderstorms in the afternoon and early evening, and some could be severe. The high reaches 91. For Friday, the pattern continues. More clouds than sunshine and a chance for storms later in the day. Our high is 92. I'm Cal Moss with your on-point local weather.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, fireplaces. Summer sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The Point. This is The Point. Make the point.
Welcome back to Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network. You can reach the guys with the South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number. 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now back to Phil and Chris with the second hour of Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network.
Thanks for sticking with us here on Sports Talk, hour number 2. We've got Fisher DeBerry, legendary Air Force football coach, set to join us shortly. We've also got the recruiting report ahead, and Gamecock fans, I hope someone else has shared the bad news with you already. Joel Cumbay, who was a Gamecocks target, committed to Tennessee about 120 minutes ago. So South Carolina misses again on one of its top targets. Also, this bit of Braves news, Ronald Acuna Jr. was held out of the game last night, back tightness, hurt it in the gym, just like me, Chris. Just like me, Ronald Acuna Jr. and I cut from the same cloth, but according to, I think you said Braves writer Mark Bowman, Acuna is expected to be back in the lineup tonight.
Yes, and they can't go anywhere without him. I mean, he made the All-Star game and is going to be a starter for the National League on the All-Star team. Smitty, and here's a guy who missed a good bit of the opening of the season. You see how valuable he is. I think he made the All-Star team just based on his value to the Atlanta Braves alone. Plus, he's a dynamic player and a lot of fun to watch. And anybody who can pull off the color yellow as well as Acuna does, in terms of his batting gloves, his protection, his cleats, everything else. I just enjoy watching him play. And to me, that's what the All-Star game should be all about. Find out who the fans want to see play. And I'm pretty sure Ronald Acuna is inside the top 5 for most everybody.
Yeah, he is. And, you know, this is actually a different wrinkle than is often the case. I even joked last week that Juan Soto is probably going to land on the All-Star game because somebody's going to sprain an ankle, or they're going to slip in the shower and they're going to suddenly not want to go. But in this case, the game is at Truist Park, and that everyone in the Atlanta area, maybe they don't get to go to the Braves that often, and they're going to say, "Oh, I want to see Acuna play." Of course, he's also been hurt so much the last 3 seasons, so Braves fans just want to get their eyes on him. As you said, he's one of the most electric players in the game, along with Elly De La Cruz. Then, of course, what Aaron Judge can do at the plate, and Shohei Ohtani, Paul Skeens, and all those guys, as long as they're all healthy, we're going to be there in Truist Park. Just a 2.5-hour drive, I guess, from where you sit, Chris.
Yeah, I want to circle back to the All-Star game, but we've got Coach DeBerry on the line here. We'll get to him in just a quick second. I want to circle back to the All-Star game, though, because I want to ask you a question or two about the Major League All-Star game versus the NFL Pro Bowl and the NHL and also the NBA's All-Star games.
Indeed. All right, well, let's get to that esteemed guest we mentioned earlier, legendary coach Fisher DeBerry. We told you Chris Blair, the voice of the LSU Tigers, has deep ties to the state of South Carolina. So does Fisher DeBerry. Almost everyone in college football knows of his legendary career leading the Air Force Academy. But Coach DeBerry, we count you as one of our own because of your time at Wofford College all those years ago playing flanker for the Terriers. Welcome back to Sports Talk, Coach, and we look forward to seeing you next Wednesday at the Coaches for Charity.
Well, thank you, Chris. Thank you, Matt. It's great to be with you. Nice of you guys to give old Phil days off. He's a beach bum anyway, I think, and he goes off every year down to the beach about this time. So I know he's having a good time with family.
He is, Coach. And if you would, you have shared this story with us before, but can you give us the origin story for the South Carolina Coaches for Charity? What made you want to do this and how you're able – I told Chris I can't believe the auction that you hold every year, and you can give us some background on how much money you raise, but I'm just telling you it is a pop culture and sports fans' dream just to walk through and see all the items you auction off every year.
Well, I give a lot of credit to Coaching Charities because they've been with us for 20-something years now, and but this is a dream I've had in my heart for a long time, having grown up in Chirraw and having been a product of a single-parent family. And, of course, as I recruited so many years across the country, being at the academy, and it was just every year I was in more and more and more single-parent homes. And then I found out a lot of kids were missing opportunities, to play and to have equipment and to, go to camps and improve their skills. And so that's sort of how the idea originated with me. And this is the 16th year we're cranking up in South Carolina. I'm very proud of that. We've had 20 in Colorado, and I think we've made a difference in the lives of a lot of single-parent kids. And, of course, the thing we feature as much as anything in the world is for kids to have the opportunity to go to a summer fellowship of Christian athletes camp, because we know if they go there, they'll have a change in their heart, and certainly they will be a better asset to their team and be a better asset to the school that they represent.
Fisher DeBerry joining us here on Sports Talk. And again, the event is coming up in Greenville next Wednesday night. Coach, are there tickets available? Can people still get into the event?
You can get on. Yeah, you can get online, SouthCarolinaCoaches.com, and tickets and tables are available. looks like right now we're up to about 240 something, and we'll have a great night. Be a fun night, and I know this is one of Dabo's favorite things that he does, and of course it's right in his own backyard, and we'll have a great crowd, from Clemson, but we'll have all the other coaches represented throughout the state too, and my dear friend Paul Maneri, the new baseball coach of South Carolina, is going to be there, and he's got a great young man that he's going to bring. The coaches bring a player, and the audience gets to hear from them and their expectations and their backgrounds, and it's an informative night for a fan, but also a night to give back and to help young people throughout the state.
Coach, Sesame Street, the children's program that taught us all as we were growing up, used to have a song about which of these things is not like the other. And you mentioned Coach Maneri. He's the only non-football coach that's going to be there next week up in Greenville. How did he get involved with this, and what do you think he'll be able to bring in terms of his years of experience on the baseball diamond versus what the guys are going to bring with their years of experience on the football field?
Well, he's a coach. That's the most important thing, and he's a great coach. And he had a tough year this year, but you can bet they'll be back. But we're excited. Paul and I were together at the academy, and he lived right in the same neighborhood with us, and we became great friends, and followed his career from the Air Force baseball, which he did a wonderful job there, and then to Notre Dame, and then Notre Dame to LSU, and won a couple of national championships. And he's just one of the best of the business, but I was very close to his family and to his mom and dad when they used to come and visit. And so we've seen Paul, and he was there last year and just loved what we were doing. And I said, well, we're going to feature you this year. So he's bringing one of his players, and his player that he's bringing has a very unique thing that he does. Every strikeout that he has, he deals a certain amount of money to his foundation. And it's a very, very unique thing, and I think people will really enjoy hearing about that.
Yeah, Jake McCoy. I think that's going to be an outstanding little speech here. We had him on the program a couple of weeks back when he was promoting that event. I think it's outstanding for sure. Fisher DeBerry, the legendary football coach, of course, a South Carolinian.
Well, now when you say legendary, that makes me feel real old.
I'm sorry. What would work better, Coach? Outstanding coach. I mean, we could run out of accolades to describe you.
I'm only 87 years old.
Wow. Congratulations. I hope I'm as spry when I get to 57, much less 87. But I'm sneaking up on it fast.
I just hope we can continue to do this every year because it's a lot of fun. People, rant and rave about it after they're there because it's so personal. They get a chance to interact with Dabo, with the coaches, and from all over the state, and they get to hear from their players and what the coaches are anticipating, and some other legendary coaches will be there, and so it's just a fun night, but yet it's all in the interest of raising funds to help kids have the opportunity to do some things in life that they might not be able to do. We do a lot of musical lessons for kids and other things too that they'd be involved in with our foundation, but primarily it's getting kids to camp and being with coaches and hearing the right things and doing the right things. And I truly believe that, after an experience at FCA camp, a young man, a young lady can go back into their campus, into their schools, and change the heart and soul of their school. Because their heart and soul will be changed if they go to camp. I know that.
The Fellowship of Christian Athletes, I know, is near and dear to your heart, and it's also part of the backbone of the coaches event that will take place next Wednesday up in Greenville, the South Carolina Coaches for Charity. But there are other charities that will be involved in this, Coach. And how do you guys go about selecting which charities you'll feature each and every year?
Well, each coach has his own charity. Dabo has his own All In, and it's unbelievable, what his charity is meant to kids in South Carolina, kids everywhere. But he's been so faithful and so loyal, to his charity, and And the thing we're just trying to do is just make a difference and help kids, be exposed to the right things and make the right decisions for their lives. And when we've seen it happen, that they can go back and change the heart and soul because, one, they're athletes and everybody in their school, looks up to them. And my hat's off to all the FCA leaders throughout the state of South Carolina. And we're so blessed to have the quality of leadership in South Carolina, leading our FCA programs in respective schools all across the state. And I'd say about every school in the state now is represented by FCA or has FCA in their program.
Well, Coach, we really appreciate the time that you spent with us, and we'll see you Wednesday night. The website is SouthCarolinaCoaches.com. And, of course, Maurice Drayton will be there from the Citadel, Sean Watson from Wofford, Chennis Berry from South Carolina State, Clay Hendricks from Furman, Dabo Sweeney, obviously a headliner from Clemson, and your friend, Coach, Paul Maneri, the South Carolina baseball coach.
Yeah, representing South Carolina, and we're just excited that he can do that, and he's really looking forward to it. He was there last year and had a wonderful time, and I know the state has embraced Paul, and just be patient because he'll bring a championship to South Carolina. He's just that kind of coach and that kind of person. But for him to take time, and he was just so impressed with being there last year and what we were doing, and as long as the Lord continues to give us help and we can. Y'all give us support, but I'm glad y'all going to be there, and certainly look forward to visiting with you, Chris and Matt, and we'll have a good time up there. I promise you that.
We certainly will. So everybody can get all the information, SouthCarolinaCoaches.com. Coach DeBerry, thank you so much, and we'll see you next Wednesday.
Appreciate it, Coach.
All right, y'all have a good night. Appreciate what you're doing for athletics throughout the state and for the colleges and universities and high school programs. Nobody does it any better than y'all's program.
Oh, you're too kind. Thank you, Coach. We appreciate the time. He's 87, folks. 87. I'm blown away with his energy, and I wasn't kidding, Smitty. I hope I'm that spry in a couple of years when I hit 57.
You're not that spry now, Chris.
There's a lot of things we take for granted in our lives. Your home's AC will run cool. Your drive-through coffee will be hot. And the car will start when it's time to take your kids to school. It's when things don't go as planned that you start thinking about who to call and where to turn. The good thing is, you can prepare for life's most difficult days by calling the Larry Lucas Agency today. Larry is a State Farm agent that has been taking care of people across South Carolina for more than 2 decades. You probably have insurance, but switching is easy, and bundling can save you hundreds or more. Most importantly, the Larry Lucas Agency can help you choose the protection you want at the price you want. All backed by South Carolina's #1 home and auto insurance company. Visit LarryLucasAgency.com today or give Larry a call at 803-799-1998. Like a good neighbor, Larry Lucas State Farm is there.
You've put in the work for your education. The extra early, extra late, extra work. That's because you understand education opens doors to better pay, better opportunities, and a better you. Being educated about playing the lottery is no different. It helps you be a better player, one who knows when to play and when to take a rain check. The lottery's a game, so let's keep it fun. Learn more at sceducationlottery.com/betteryou.
G3 here with Tsunami Bar Sports, and it's time for a fall preview. That's right, 720 Chris Drive, 378 and I-26, Frontage Road, where you can now preview the best technology for golf known to man. It's the Tsunami Bar. It's live weight. It's the only technology out where you get your tempo and flow going before you play. Now, it also serves as a pattern support tool. 720 Chris Drive, Frontage Road, 378 and I-26. You also can visit the Garage Gym Pro Shop. Pick up your tools, take them home, and while you're here, tour the Scramble course, 6-hole pitch and putt right now.
We're with Major Billy Downer of the Department of Natural Resources. Major Downer, let's say I'm out in the woods or I'm on the water and I need to reach a DNR agent. How do I do that?
Operation Game Thief, Phil. It's been around 30-plus years. You can call us at our 24-hour hotline any time of day, 1-800-922-5431. To report wildlife violations or to get help if you're in trouble in the woods or on the water, call us at Operation Game Thief, 1-800-922-5431.
Right, we are Sports Talk Media Network on a fine Wednesday night after a rough night weather-wise yesterday. Today, much better here across the state of South Carolina. You can join us at 888-898-2525. We'll get to the phones in just a couple of seconds. Before we do that, though, you can also text us on our text line any time of the day. We don't have to be here. You can send us a text line in at 803-900-4847. And the best ones of the night get read live on the air by the plumber. Josh, what do we have off the text line tonight?
You know, there's nothing really good off the text line, but I'm going to head over to our comments on our YouTube and Facebook. And Craig says, "Is Faison really good, really worth an extra 2 to 3 wins? Or Howell and Fuller that much worse than Faison?"
It's a very good question, and one they may have to figure out an answer towards, because I don't know the answer to that right off the bat. I really don't. I don't know how much. I can't say this, though, Smitty, to a little more direct. I think the lack of a running game could be costly to the Gamecocks in terms of wins. They've got to find a way to take a little bit of heat. If you know that Lenore Sellers, as talented as he is their only option to run the football out of the backfield, that's going to be a problem.
Oh, and I think it's certain. I don't think anyone would deny that South Carolina has to keep Lenore Sellers healthy, right? And one of the ways that you do that is fewer designed runs. So if it's going to be fewer designed runs, then that means you want to get more out of the traditional running game. Now, Craig asked, is Faison worth 2 to 3 extra wins? I don't know how many players are actually worth that much. I don't know how much Faison would be worth. I think he would just be a component to the running game anyway. I don't know if anyone established themselves. I was covering the spring game, and I saw flashes from all 5 of the running backs that were employed that night. They all look like they're talented, and 1 or 2 didn't really separate themselves from the others. I just think South Carolina's in a position where I don't even know if it's about talent. It's that these guys aren't proven yet. So let's see. So they're going, and they're playing a pretty good football team in Virginia Tech, not a pushover. So let's see. Early on, of course, we have to see if Faison is eligible, and then let's see in that first game, South Carolina. But this happens every year. Look, we didn't, there's every year there's guys that come out and you don't know how they're going to impact a team, but they're freshmen or they're transfers, and it works out okay sometimes. So we're just going to we'll be in a wait and see mode. I only bring it up because I know in and year out when South Carolina has its good years, they're able to take pressure off quarterbacks with the run game, with the traditional run game. In the years where they struggle, they can't. They can't move those good defensive lines that they play against. Right. That includes Clemson. Clemson or SEC teams, they can't do it. And if they can't do that, then Lenore Sellers is going to be they're going to pin their ears back, and he's going to be under pressure throughout the season. We'll see.
It's interesting. We spend so much time talking about the running game and or the lack thereof and concerns that the Gamecocks have. Clemson's dealing with a similar circumstance. I mean, when you have to move a wide receiver into the running back room to add depth back there, Clemson could be in the same boat, but I haven't heard anywhere close to the concerns Tiger fans have because of what they have outside in the K. Klubnik to throw it to them. Their wide receiving core is so good. And I think South Carolina's can be really good too. But Clemson's wide receiving core, I think, will make up for a lot of ills. And if Cade Klubnik can get just a small sample of a running game behind him, whoever carries the ball, Adam Randall, whomever, then they're going to be awfully tough to stop offensively. And the Gamecocks are going to have to find a way, I think, just to take some of the pressure off Lenore Sellers. They've got to find somebody else. Maybe it's Oscar Attaway. He was their third leading rusher last season behind Raheem Sanders and also Lenoris. So maybe it's his year to step up if Faison is not cleared to play. All right, good stuff there. You can always comment via the text line, but also on our YouTube pages as well. We'll get into that, Facebook, wherever. We're all over the place. You find us, you can comment and let us know, including the phone lines at 888-898-2525 as we welcome in Bruce out in Missouri. Next up here on Sports Talk.
Well, hey,
Bruce,
guys.
good evening. How are you?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you fine.
Good. Okay. I just want to bring up Gamecock Larry and how he worshiped every day the Gamecocks, and his energy was so forceful for all of us here at the radio station. I'm a Clemson fan. I grew up as a Clemson fan. I got lineage back during almost the Civil War. Clemson fan, but Gamecock Larry, he needs to be spoken about, and his will to do what he did, even though they lost and all this stuff. He pulled for that team, and that's what I want to give you tonight.
Well, we appreciate that, Bruce. That was a nice tribute. You're right. Gamecock Larry, there was no bigger Gamecock fan. I'm not sure if, Smitty, there was a bigger fan of any team, whomever team, Tiger Terry, pick somebody. I don't know that there was a bigger fan, a more optimistic fan than Gamecock Larry. Certainly miss him.
Absolutely. We miss Gamecock Larry's calls. And, he did. He had great optimism for the Gamecocks. He certainly would have called tonight, Chris, and talked me down after I said, well, I don't know what kind of running game South Carolina will have this year. He would have had an answer. Gamecock Larry certainly, that'd be no problem. 150 yards a game. Don't worry about it.
12-0.
We'll be fine. Yeah, he was very, very, very optimistic, and we do miss Gamecock Larry. I'm glad you mentioned him, Bruce.
There's no doubt. Appreciate that, Bruce. Let's keep it going on the phone lines as we welcome in Keith in Camden next up here on Sports Talk. Good evening, Keith.
Good evening, guys. Hope y'all doing well. Great show tonight.
Thank you.
Wanted to comment. The running back, as far as South Carolina goes, I don't know I can't put my finger on it, but we're going into the 5th year, and outside of getting somebody sort of one and done, it's an ongoing problem for the university. I don't know if it's the running back coach. I don't know what it is, but there's no excuse to be in the position to where we're relying on Faison to be here or not be here. I think the last 6 years is obvious. We struggle getting a top-tier running back. It's hard to explain. But on the comment y'all made earlier, over the years, historically, we have 10 to 12 true Division I college football players out of the state of South Carolina. And naturally, a couple we've missed and a couple Dabo's missed that would love to have. But I don't know, the comment, Smitty, about top 25 looks like they're going elsewhere. I think we'll only know in time, but historically, we don't have that many top-tier Division I ball players, even though, look, it's a great state for football. Yeah, comment on that. Y'all have a good evening.
We will. We will comment on that. We got to get to a break, and Keith, we'll unpack that. And you're absolutely right. No spoiler alert. You're right. And these are 25 guys that could play at South Carolina or Clemson. I was just mentioning South Carolina's not doing great in-state either, but we'll unpack that on the other side. This is Sports Talk.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. Mostly cloudy with a low dipping down to 74. Tomorrow it's more clouds than sunshine. A 60% chance we get some thunderstorms in the afternoon and early evening, and some could be severe. The high reaches 91. For Friday, the pattern continues. More clouds than sunshine and a chance for storms later in the day. Our high is 92. I'm Cal Moss with your On Point local weather.
Hi, I'm Tazima. Join me every Saturday at 11 a.m. for Small Business Saturday. We'll celebrate business owners in our community while learning their stories of success and failure. It's Small Business Saturday right here at 100.7 The Point.
By the way, before we do what's supposed to happen here, thank you for pushing the button. I thank you. Programming thanks you. America thanks you.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters in Washington. The Guadalupe River has a history of terrible, fatal floods. The flash floods that killed at least 100 people in central Texas last week are only the latest natural disaster to claim lives. In 1987, a mid-July flood scattered children who were trying to evacuate, killing 10 and injuring dozens more. In 1978, enormous amounts of rain fell, producing an early morning flood at a time when it's easy to catch people by surprise. 33 people died there. Philadelphia's week-long city workers' strike has ended with a tentative agreement between the union and the city. Nearly 10,000 workers from District Council 33 walked off the job on July 1st, demanding better pay and benefits. On Wall Street, the Dow up by 217 points. This is SRN News.
Lots of plumbing companies out there. Few are truly local. Time to discover the difference with Franklin Plumbing and Drain Cleaning. See, when I faced plumbing woes at the Cohen home, Josh and his dedicated team, well, they were my go-to solution. They make a commitment to exceptional service. They arrived on time, clearly detailed all the costs and procedures, and efficiently handled all my repairs without any surprises. These days, how often do we complain about a lack of customer service out there? With Franklin Plumbing and Drain Cleaning, these folks are professional. They're courteous. They're skilled at what they do, and they've earned my trust, and they've earned my recommendation to you. From urgent repairs to the tankless water heater you've always wanted, they've got you covered. Visit franklinplumbing.sc.com or call 799-2222. That's 799-2222. Hey, you tell them Kev sent you from The Point. I'm pretty sure you'll want to thank me later.
What's better than getting the best Wagyu and Hereford beef anywhere in these parts and getting it delivered to your door? How about knowing you're still supporting local farmers in Saluda over at H&J Cattle, where tradition meets quality? Visit HandJCattle.com. Place your order for $50 or more, get free delivery in Richland or Lexington County. Plus, Point listeners get 10% off your order. Enter keyword The Point as one word for your discount. HandJCattle.com.
Hey y'all, it's Ted from Flight Deck Restaurant. We're introducing the Wing and a Prayer Wednesday special. Purchase an order of wings and a drink and get a free gift card for the arcade. We have some of the most mouth-watering jumbo wings like flamethrower hot wings, barbecue wings, teriyaki wings, honey mustard wings, terry hot wings. You can get a half dozen for $9.95 or a dozen for $18.95. Served with celery and choice of dressing. So come join us at Flight Deck Restaurant to enjoy some great jumbo wings and lots of fun in our new and improved arcade. And we at Flight Deck Restaurant thank y'all and God bless.
At Palmetto State Armory, we offer the largest selection of guns and ammunition at unbeatable prices. Our knowledgeable and friendly staff are here to provide personalized assistance, ensuring you find exactly what you need. If you enjoy outdoor activities like hunting, camping, or hiking, our clothing and outdoor gear collection has got you covered. We also feature an exceptional indoor range facility where you can experience the thrill of shooting in a safe and controlled environment. Visit us today at PalmettoStateArmory.com or your local retail store. Palmetto State Armory, American made for life.
Do you crave growth for your business? That's where The Point comes in. Fran Halloran here. Kevin Cohen and the other local hosts like me have worked to create a space where listeners transform into family. Are you a local business aiming for the stars? You need to get with Kevin and let him help create an individualized blueprint for your growth using the influential stage of The Point Radio. Reach out directly at 563-8558. Teaming with The Point, make this year extraordinary.
The Sports Talk Recruiting Report is sponsored by Seawell's Catering.
And welcome back to Sports Talk. Smitty and Chris here with you. Phil is still on his spiritual sabbatical in the great Northwest. But we do have the recruiting report. And Keith and Camden, we are going to answer your question. We'll unpack that coming up after the recruiting report presented by Seawells. I know you want to hear that as well, Keith. When planning that special event, whether it be a wedding reception, birthday party, corporate outing, awards banquet, or business luncheon, call the catering experts at Seawells, 1125 Rosewood Drive. You can visit their website, SeawellsCateringSC.com. Word has it, Phil has his own personal meals catered, just him in a dining room.
I think he goes
It
back
would
to
not surprise me in the least.
He probably goes back and eats in the kitchen, and maybe just as it comes out of the oven or as it comes out of the whatever, he just shovels it.
Yeah, just chats the family up.
Right.
Phil, please go to the dining room with everybody else. All right, Josh, what's on the menu this week?
Well, tomorrow is their Friday. They have I guess they have a private event on Friday. So Thursday will be their last day they're open for the week. Sliced beef brisket, southern fried chicken, fried fish nuggets, and smoked sausages with peppers and onions.
All right, Joel Cumbay, the South Carolina Target safety out of Marietta, Georgia, committed to Tennessee just about an hour and a half ago. A little after 5 o'clock today, Cumbay made it official that he is committing to Tennessee. So the Volunteers get that one, and South Carolina does not. Earlier today, 2027 running back out of Woodruff, Aiden Gibson, has been offered by Georgia Tech. Got some Clemson news here. Linebacker Tyler Atkinson of Loganville, Georgia, named to Final Four of Clemson, Oregon, Texas, and Georgia. Those were also his 4 official visits. He has not announced a commitment date, but is expected to make his pledge by the end of July. He's been projected to Georgia by the recruiting networks. Clemson and South Carolina are among the top 8 with 2027 offensive lineman Maxwell Hiller, a 300-pounder out of Coatesville, Pennsylvania. The others are Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, Penn State, Maryland, and Ohio State. Bluffton wide receiver Carnell Warren has committed to North Carolina. He had previously committed to Virginia Tech, but now he has since decommitted and flipped to the Tar Heels. Clemson currently has 20 commitments for the 2026 recruiting class, including a pair of safeties in there, Kentavian Anderson and Caden Gebhardt. They may not be done at the safety position, however. They have a pair of targets who will be making commitment announcements soon. First up, Blake Stewart out of College Park, Georgia. His commitment announcement is coming up Sunday. Stewart is down to Clemson, Miami, Michigan, and Vanderbilt. Clemson is viewed by analysts as the favorite. Next up is going to be an announcement on July 18th with Tylen Wilson, a 6'4" safety out of Mississippi. He's down to the Tigers, Arkansas, and Texas A&M. Clemson safeties coach Mickey Kahn thought enough of Wilson to bring him in for the Tigers' major recruiting weekend back on May 30th. Since then, he's kept the Tigers in the ballgame with the safety who, in terms of stature, might remind Clemson fans of another one of their all-time great safeties, another one of those long safeties, Jaron Kearse. Texas A&M, however, is being touted as the favorite for Wilson. Texas A&M has been coming up a lot in these recruiting battles with Clemson and South Carolina recently. On 3, Director of Recruiting Steve Wiltfong is at it again, playing with the minds of Gamecock fans. Wiltfong, according to his website, has a high percentage of being correct on his commitment projections. This is Phil writing this, by the way. That was what Phil wrote. Wiltfong claims to have gotten these projections right over 90% of the time, and Phil throws in the recruiting report here, according to the website, almost allegedly, Steve Wiltfong gets a lot of these right.
It's funny you say that, Smitty, because I picked up my copy of Phil Steele's college football preview today. Actually, I had my wife get it for me, so thank you, Heidi. But at the bottom it says, the most accurate magazine over the last 30 years. And you could probably, according to Phil Steele. I mean, who checks this stuff? I mean,
well, he does. It's inside the magazine. That's you gotta pay your quarter to find out. It's probably up. We'll have Phil Steele on the show soon. It's probably up to $20, right? It's getting pricey.
Yes, it was actually a little bit more than that, but yeah. And I don't dispute that. I just found it funny since you mentioned that about Steve Wiltfong being right 90% of the time, according to Steve Wiltfong.
Well, McDonald's, billions and billions served. Stop bragging.
It's like claiming you're the second best at something. It's a smart marketing ploy because nobody asks who's first. Nobody questions that you say you're second.
Well, yeah, you're right. You're right. A humble brag. If it's a humble brag. Anyway, Steve, let me get back to this. Steve Wiltfong, according to Phil, is playing with the minds of Gamecock fans. But here's what's going on. Wiltfong, who had previously called defensive end Rice Perry Wright to Texas A&M over Clemson, that panned out. He also called defensive end Junior Walker to Michigan over the Gamecocks. That was also correct. But he was wrong on his prediction of defensive tackle P.J. Dean to the Gamecocks. as Dean ended up going with Georgia. Now, he's at it again. Tuesday night, Wilt Fong issued a projection of offensive tackle Jabian Shabazz to Tennessee over the Gamecocks in Ohio State. Shabazz is set to announce on Friday. But no doubt more concerning to Gamecock fans was his projection earlier in the day of safety Tamarian Watkins of Northwestern to Texas A&M over the Gamecocks. This is something we talked about on the show last night. We'll find out. Watkins is going to announce on the 14th. Gamecocks have basically owned the city of Rock Hill when it comes to football recruiting since the days of Rick Samford. A little shout out for Dr. Rick. To believe Watkins will travel halfway across the country to play college football in the SEC when he can travel down an hour down I-77, play for the Gamecocks will be a tough pill for Gamecock Nation to swallow if indeed Wilt Fong's projection comes to fruition on Monday. A little editorializing there from Korn. Of the 25 reported commitments to Division I programs, only 5 are staying in state. USC has 4 of those commitments, Clemson 1. You can find that full list at SportsTalkSC.com, and that's the thing that Keith and Camden wanted us to comment on, and we will. A couple more notes. Clemson and South Carolina are among the top 8 with 2027 offensive lineman Maxwell Hiller of Coatesville, Pennsylvania. The others, Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, Penn State, Maryland, and Ohio State. And Clemson offered 2027 Justin Wise out of Georgia. His other offers include Virginia Tech, Florida State, Georgia. How about this one? Villanova, Cal, Cincinnati, and Stetson. So that's a basketball
That's interesting.
one. Yeah, that's a basketball one. So
gotcha, okay.
There you go. And Hudson Lee, we mentioned this at the tail end of the show last night. Hudson Lee, left-handed pitcher, All-State at Dorman in baseball and football, went on to Wake Forest where he pitched, then at Clemson last year, made 15 appearances for the Tigers, and now has transferred to South Carolina. He's going to join Paul Maneri's group in Columbia. And that is the recruiting report presented by Seawells. Go to SeawellsCateringSC.com for more.
Very good stuff.
Not more recruiting news. Go to SportsTalkSC.com for more recruiting news.
Yes. Go fill your belly, though, at Seawells.
Yep.
And find out which is better. Our recruiting reporter, Seawells Buffet. Man, I'll tell you, it's an easy answer.
I'll guarantee it.
And ain't
I'll
the
guarantee
recruiting
it.
report.
All right, now back to Keith and Camden's comment. So, number one, Keith, he was kind of lamenting the fact, he's a Gamecock fan, and lamenting the fact that South Carolina just hasn't found answers at running back. And it's really interesting when you look. Now, of course, the years are going by quickly for all of us, right? I mean, if I start throwing out names like Rico Dowdle and A.J. Turner and Jaheim Bell, and I mean, he was a tight end, but the fact that Mario Anderson was a transfer. These are some of the players that have been some of the top rushers for South Carolina in the last handful of seasons. I do think every now and then they do get – Rico Dowdle was highly recruited out of the Asheville area in North Carolina. So I do think there are times when South Carolina has hit on it. Those guys they don't seem to be able to stay healthy, however, when South Carolina does get a highly recruited running back. And another interesting facet to this is South Carolina, at least in recent history, does not seem to be able to have a guy lead the team in rushing in consecutive seasons. And and last year's an example of that. Rocket Sanders, right, led the team in rushing. Ended up he got hobbled and was I don't even remember. I don't think Sanders was even available for the bowl game toward the end of the year. He was clearly not the same player toward the end of the year. Of course, he was a transfer out of Arkansas, so he's gone now. His eligibility's gone, and South Carolina has to fill that hole again. I think that's what Keith and Camden's talking about. It's this revolving door, and they can't seem to get 2 or 3 guys that know their roles, stay, develop, and then and kind of move up the depth chart, right, where fans get excited. Oh, we have so-and-so next year taking over. It's always a question mark heading into fall camp.
This will help crystallize this for Gamecock fans, and it's something Phil and I were talking about a week or so ago with regards to Rashul Faison and where their situation is at running back, and why can't the Gamecocks get a running back and recruit one and bring him in and develop the player and turn him into a Brandon Bennett, or maybe I hate to mention the names George Rogers and Harold Green and Marcus Lattimore, but those are the all-time greats at South Carolina. Smitty, I pulled up the top 25 running backs in school history in terms of yardage that they accounted for in their career. Now, keep in mind, players don't play and stay at the same school for 4 years. But nonetheless, of the top 25, and one of them is a quarterback in Connor Shaw, but of the top 25, only 8 of those players are what we would consider modern-day running backs. Marcus Lattimore is the only one inside the top 5 behind George Rogers, Brandon Bennett, Harold Green, and Thomas Dendy that played since the turn of the century.
Right.
Then you have to go to Mike Davis, who is 8th when he played in 2012. Corey Boyd is 10th when he played in 2003. Mike Davis, 2005. The most recent best running back, if you will, for South Carolina, you have already mentioned him, Rico Dowdle. He's been gone almost 10 years from the program. When he rushed in 2016, to 2019. So not quite 10 years. But from 2016 to 2019, he rushed for 2,200 yards. And but everybody else is the 80s and 90s. Now, part of this, and let's be fair, the game's changed. So
That's
you're
right.
not lining up in an eye. You're not going to have Oscar Attaway go over the top to beat Georgia and stomp hobnail boots on their nose, type deals. But, I mean, the game has changed. But I think it sort of illustrates that the Gamecocks have not had a star standout running back in a long, long time.
And one of the ones they did have, I ran across as I was just glancing back at the last few years, just like you, Kevin Harris. Mm-hmm. Remember him? Went on to play briefly in the NFL with the Bears, and he was somewhat of an afterthought coming into the season. And he only was able to get the starting position through injuries. And listen, we've had – again, I always want to do this. I think there has been talent at running back. I think it has to do with continuity along the offensive line, continuity on the coaching staff. When South Carolina was at its best in terms of running the football, it was when Steve Spurrier was the head coach. Somewhat oddly, right, because of his reputation. But even after Lattimore was injured, Brandon Wiles stepped in. Good offensive line under Sean Elliott much of that time. I think Eric Walford was also in as an offensive line coach, but I know that Sean Elliott gets a lot of that credit. A lot of players in those locker rooms really credited Sean Elliott with coming in with the scheme, and they stuck with it. You have to stay with the running game, and that never happened in the Will Muschamp era. Never happened. They were lost with what they wanted to do in terms of sticking with the running game. So now we'll see if they can do it. Sean Elliott is there as the offensive line coach, and let's see if they can do it now with Coach Shula as the offensive coordinator, and we're just going to find out. And but if they do, if South Carolina does have a successful running game this year, it's not going to be because everyone is excited about someone coming into the year. It's going to be because the defense has to stay honest with Lenore Sellers, and they run a lot of that zone read, and the offensive line and whoever is carrying the football in the running game, somebody emerges. So I'm not saying they won't have success. I'm saying what Keith and Camden's problem was, when is there going to be that stud like a Lattimore, even like a Rico Dowdle who was highly recruited? Where's their version of that in this new era? And they just haven't been able to get that going yet under Coach Beamer.
3 of those top 22 played under Spurrier. You hit on Marcus Lattimore, Brandon Wiles, and then, of course, the quarterback, Connor Shaw, who was a really, really good athlete. I don't know that he's the same athlete that Lenore Sellers is, but he was a winner and knew when he had to run, he could run. And finished his career with almost 1,700 yards rushing. I don't think people realize just how good a runner Connor Shaw was.
So effective. So, and he was a great athlete and so crafty and so sharp. And I think we could throw a lot of accolades at Connor Shaw and why he's way up there on that list. Marshawn Lloyd, by the way, was highly recruited and played recently for South Carolina. But keeping guys healthy and sticking with one scheme and then sticking with the running game inside the game has eluded South Carolina at times. Now, the other thing Keith and Camden brought up is he said, there are a lot of players that are not going to South Carolina and Clemson from in-state. They've committed elsewhere. But on a yearly basis, South Carolina being a small state, South Carolina and Clemson can't afford to focus in-state. And I think he's right. I'm always of two minds with this. I hate it when it does happen. When you see a great player like, say, an A.J. Green play at Summerville and then he leaves the state. And it's happened for years. And I think it's very difficult for Clemson and South Carolina. Clemson says, to themselves, okay, if we're going to recruit at the same level as Alabama and Ohio State and Georgia, we can't just do it in South Carolina. So they had to expand their recruiting footprint. They knew they had to do it. I think they've done it wisely. And South Carolina, by the same token, they're playing that same group of teams, right? They're playing Alabama, they're playing Georgia, and they're playing Clemson. And so South Carolina might say, well, you can't get it done with, for lack of a better term, 3-star athletes that are going to end up going to Appalachian State. You can't recruit, develop those guys and expect to turn around and beat Tennessee, Georgia, and Florida. And I don't know, but I do know this. Sometimes that 3-star athlete that leaves the state and goes to Appalachian State is also Armani Edwards. And you could have used him. So I'm always torn on this about which way to lean. But you're right, Keith and Camden. You can't just focus in state. But it's a shame, I think, when both South Carolina and Clemson miss on those great ones, and you have to watch them go have success in the Big 10, Big 12, ACC, or outside our state.
You think Armani Edwards could have played at either one of them?
I think so.
I think so, too. He was really talented.
Looking to make life simpler and save money? Make a smart move. Transfer your high interest balances to a Founders credit card and take advantage of our balance transfer rate as low as 2.99% APR. That's right, as low as 2.99% with no balance transfer fees. That means more breathing room for what matters, like taking that long-awaited vacation or finally getting ahead. Whether you're catching up or simply just want to relax, we're here to help you save more. So, what are you waiting for? Take advantage of this limited time offer through September the 30th. Apply now and enjoy peace of mind knowing you've made a smart move that works for your wallet and for you. Visit foundersfcu.com or stop by a local office today. Promotional rate expires 6 months from the date of the transaction. Then effective APR of 13.25% to 17.9% will apply. For more details, visit foundersfcu.com/cc. Membership qualification required.
Traveling can be the worst, especially when you can't find your favorite show. Well, don't worry. We've got the perfect way to keep up with everything happening in the Palmetto State when you're away from home. Just pull up the Chief Sports app on your mobile device, and you can listen live to Sports Talk.
All right, welcome in, everybody. Sports Talk Media Network.
So the next time you can't find us on one of our great radio affiliates, just log on to the Chief Sports app, the best way to stay connected with the Sports Talk Media Network.
Every lottery ticket purchase keeps education in our state moving forward. In fact, the lottery has raised more than $200 million for state school buses to get our students to school safely every day. Then, the lottery helps those students go even further in their education by funding the Life, Hope, and Palmetto Fellow Scholarships. So remember, when you play the lottery, you're keeping South Carolina students on the road to success. Learn more at sceducationlottery.com/betteryou.
I'm attorney Jim Corbett. That's the sound of a big hit on you and your car or truck. I've been an attorney for more than 30 years, helping people who get injured in car wrecks and truck wrecks. If you have serious injuries, call Jim Corbett, 803-765-2968, or email me at jim@jimcorbettattorney.com. That's CORBETT. I don't get paid unless I recover for you. Jim Corbett Attorney, for your best recovery from a big hit, 803-765-2968, or jim@jimcorbettattorney.com.
Final segment here on Sports Talk Media Network on a busy Wednesday. Hoping to catch up with our good friend Mike Morgan coming up on the program tomorrow night. Morgan on the move. I can't begin to understand or at least predict where that direction may go tomorrow. May talk some Braves, look forward to the All-Star game and much more with Mike on the program. All right, we'll get back to the text line here in just a quick second before we wrap things up, but it is time once again for the much anticipated, never duplicated freshman question of the night for the upcoming Josh Cohen, who will be a student at the University of Florida this coming fall, evidently, judging by his wardrobe tonight. Josh, you realize you can't keep doing this.
And if you're listening on the radio, I'm wearing a shirt that says University. Well, it says Florida, but It's clearly a University of Florida T-shirt. I will continue to wear that even on campus at the University of South Carolina.
Smitty, we're going to have to go over and get Josh from the infirmary after the first week of school when he walks down downtown in Columbia.
He'll be too fast on those electric scooters. They won't catch him.
Yeah, well, then I'd be in whatever the USC jail or whatever they have for driving one of those around. So you never know.
Yeah, never know. All right, Josh, here we go with the freshman question of the night. And the question this evening, and I found this fascinating, especially the answer part of it, but how much study time do you anticipate per week that you will be doing this fall?
That's a question I have no answer to. I mean, I don't know. I have no clue. I don't even know. I hardly even know what classes I'm going to be in.
All right, how much study time do you think you did during a typical high school week?
Maybe about 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's kind of what I figured.
A week, yeah.
A week, yes.
So, I mean, I'm definitely going to try. If I'm paying $30,000 for an in-state tuition, I think I'll definitely try not to fail my classes. So, whatever it takes, I guess.
Well, according to collegiateparent.com, and Smitty, you can chime in on this as both of us
data.
have already gone through the work in college. A student taking 5 3-credit classes spends, of course, 15 hours each week in class. Makes sense, right?
Yep.
Well, according to collegiateparent.com, then they should be spending 30 hours on work outside of class, so 45 hours total. Now, there's a reason I did not graduate summa cum laude, because I didn't come close to studying that much. Smitty, did you study 30 hours a week?
A week or total? Or you mean cumulatively?
I think that is nearly impossible. So, Josh, we don't anticipate you studying 30 hours a week. I would say this, though, at least put in more than 15 minutes.
I hope Josh's professors are listening right now. I can go ahead and tell you, Josh is using AI to pass your class. That's what's happening. That's what Josh is going to be focused.
Go ahead and out me? You're going to go ahead and out me?
I'm going to tell you. Well, it's okay, because apparently, according to all the articles that are out, I'm sure there's one at collegiateparent.com, the professors are using it too. So the world is changing. It's falling apart here, people. The robots are taking over. AI is going to run it all soon enough. And the people that know how to utilize AI are going to be the ones in charge.
To answer your question, Chris, maybe an hour a day. I have Fridays off, no class on Friday, so Friday may be the day where I spend some time, a couple hours, 3 hours, maybe a day.
You lie. There's no way you're studying on a Friday, especially when you don't have class.
I still got to come to work.
Josh, you've got to do the scoreboard show, the high school scoreboard show, starting August 22nd.
The only reason why I'm still in South Carolina.
Network.
The only reason why I'm still in South Carolina is Phil Kornbluten Sports Talk. So you guys better be happy that I have no class on Friday.
Phil won't let him leave.
I have signed a contract when I started here. You're not allowed to leave for at least 5 years. So that means I may be able to transfer out after my junior year.
Phil will be back next week, so we finally have a chance to say this. Phil has compromising information on all of us, okay? We're all stuck here. We have to do his bidding. That's why we're locked to our computers all day and night.
Yes. We may need to update the show intro. Phil Corncoot.
Yep.
Now,
just for next Monday.
Or
let's see how
Phil,
long it takes him to figure it out.
Folks, we enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed this Wednesday. We will see you back here tomorrow night at 6 on Sports Talk.